Crawl before you ball, and then take a little bit of the money and save it, and then do
before
something
you ball, because wealth whispers and money jingle jangles and screams.
Stuff for sale.
Hola, ¿cómo estás? How are y'all doing today? We're going to let this build. I'm so excited. Hold on, let me put my comments on. Hey, pretty Miss G, you've been doing your thing, honey. We're going to let this build a little bit and let some of y'all wake up and come on through. But let me bring Stacy in. Hey, pretty lady.
Hey, Buffy, how are you?
I'm good, girl. We're going to let this build a little bit before we get going. You know, folk in Atlanta, we in all around, we be late. So anyway, that's enough time. They'll come through. You know how I am about being on time. So I'm so excited about today's topic. You know, are you just handing out cash or are you actually running payroll, children? And I'm very excited. Now, see, I hear a little bit of an echo. If I hear it, it's not me. So check yours, Stacy. Check your. You good?
Yep.
You don't hear it. Okay.
No.
All right. So Stacy, I'm gonna say her full government name because I have known her before marriage, after marriage. And congratulations on your new nuptials.
Thank
Stacye
you.
Holland is the Payroll Territory Manager for Heartland. She is a Spelman graduate. Yes, come through with the Black excellence.
Yes, ma'am.
She has 14 years experience in this field, and she does business and payroll and HR, everything you need to know to like run your business. And I'm so happy to have her here today. Stacy and I have known each other. Stacy, how long have we known each other?
Oh my gosh. Too many years to count. Too many years to count.
So we refer long
long
time. We refer business back and forth with each other. I recommend that all my clients, when they start a small business, whether you are a solopreneur and it's just you, or you actually are hiring on employees or contractors, to hire Stacy, you know, a payroll company, because we don't, you know, we got to stay in our lane. We don't know what we're doing, and it causes very costly mistakes later. So we're going to get right on into it with Stacy. Miss Stacy, what is the number one mistake that small business owners make when starting a payroll?
Buffy, thank you again for having me join your podcast today. And hello to all of Buffy's faithful and loyal viewers. I would say that the number one mistake is really not having a clear plan for the business. And sometimes that involves payroll, meaning, you know, I meet with a lot of clients and sometimes I'll say, well, I'm too small for payroll, or, you know, I'll just kind of start it off and pay people, you know, by check. They don't set it up properly. And then they wait till it gets so, you know, to a point where they can't really manage it properly. You know, they wait until they get hit with a claim or a lawsuit from an employee. They wait until they're trying to qualify for certain things.
Yes,
whether
that.
themselves, and then they don't have any paycheck stubs. They wait until they come see someone like you, and you know they've been paying more than they need to be in taxes. You know, and I always tell clients, be proactive about how you approach your business. Be proactive about how you approach payroll. Pay your people correctly. You know, pay into the tax system correctly. But most importantly, stay in your lane with it. Don't take on too much. You know, delegate what you can delegate so that your main primary focus is growing that business. Payroll is that necessary function, obviously, to pay your people. But most importantly, you need to really have a plan to grow your business and stay on that path. Payroll should not be a part of that path.
Right. Everything is not do it yourself, and payroll is not do it yourself unless you have a background in payroll. And quite honestly, I think even with me having a background in accounting, I still hire Stacy's firm because I don't keep track of all payroll changes all the time. And so if that's, it's the one good thing about a payroll company is they focus on that. They focus on HR. They make sure you're always current and you shift the liability to them, which is a blessing.
Absolutely.
So Stacy, so this is the number one thing you and I battle with new clients, I think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Classifying employees as contractors. Handing out cash, honey, instead of withholding. It's a wage-based job, and they just giving them checks or cash. Or the new thing is the children are square cash and folk. They payments for services, and they think that that's sufficient, and it ain't. So I'm gonna let you get into that.
Yeah, you're bringing that up because I had this conversation with a client very recently, and they were cash apping their employees, which, as we all know, when you cash app and you're the recipient of that, there is a fee that you incur, right, to receive those funds. First of all, payroll, improper payroll tax management involves records. Making sure that you can record your payments correctly. How are you accounting for all these cash app payments? Are you entering it somewhere separately in a spreadsheet, or are you writing it down on a piece of paper? How are you actually maintaining payroll? For what it takes to take a moment to set up payroll properly, it's not worth the headache. It's not worth the potential liability to do something as cash app. I'm not saying cash app is not a good thing, because it is, it has its place. But payroll, especially when you're talking about, paying your people, being professional about how you pay your people, giving your people an adequate paycheck stub or record so that they have what they need if they want to buy a house or if they want to buy a car. And going to your question about tonight, we battle this.
I mean, they tell us the law, and I'm like, did you paying us or not?
We battle this all the time. And here's the primary thing that I have the discussion with clients. Do not let your employees tell you how they want to be paid or how to run your business, right? They're the very first employee that will, if you terminate them, will go to the Department of Labor, file an unemployment claims lawsuit against you, or claim against you, excuse me. And that ends up being money that you have to pay, a can of worms that you're going to open, and back penalty, taxes, and interest on payroll taxes that you should have paid. So here again, that's why I say it's important that when you do payroll and you're classifying employees and you're paying them, you need to have the conversation and consult with a professional. Right. So, and as far as 1099s and W-2s, that's a pretty good, that's a lengthy conversation that you can get into. The main thing that I want to just say about that is a W-2 is very different from a 1099. Okay. A W-2 person is someone you take out taxes on, you have direct supervision for, someone that you train, you have an expectation of coming to work, set hours, right? So if you're treating them as a W-2, but you're paying them without any taxes as a 1099, you're not compliant, okay? And you're opening yourself up for a lot of risks down the road. But if you have a person that works for you as they please, doesn't have set hours, you don't have to necessarily train them. They come equipped with the knowledge, tools, resources, equipment to do the job. And it's a very loose relationship, then a 1099 may be sufficient for them. So it's important to have the conversation, make that determination versus assuming or letting your employees tell you how they want to be paid.
Fantastic. Now, the whole show, in my opinion, could be on this one topic, because people get themselves in so much trouble. Like you said, allowing their employees to tell them how they want to be classified. And I love how you explain what an employee is. If they're clocking in and out, basically, you telling them what to do. That's an empleado. That's an employee. If they're not, if they kind of can work on things when they want to, and you have an agreement with them, then that's a contractor. And one of the things that Stacey and I came up with over the years is we tell clients, if you have a bona fide contractor, get a contract with them. Because if you're hiring a contractor, they're going to give you a contract that says you are hiring me to perform this service, and this is how much I'm charging you. And they need to give you an invoice, and you pay that invoice. And
That's right.
And you do all this to protect yourself.
Right. That's right. Employees, right, are your greatest asset, right? Because they're your people. They execute the vision of the company. They without your employees, there is no company, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe in investing in them properly, but at the same time, they also can be a risk, right? If for any reason, just out of not knowing on your end, you don't do something correctly, or you don't write them up properly, or you're not paying them, that opens you up to losses, because those same employees that you put so much faith in will do what's necessary to protect themselves. If you got someone that you have been paying as a 1099, and they go down to the Georgia Department of Labor or whatever Department of Labor in whatever state you are and file an unemployment claim, that auditor is going to look into it, whether they're 1099 or not, because when they start making that inquiry, their job as an auditor is to start asking questions and finding out if the classification is right. The number one way the Department of Labor finds violators who misclassify employees are through disgruntled employees. So they're going to come knocking at your door, and they're going to say, hey, XYZ has this claim against you. Let me dig a little bit deeper. If they start finding out you should have paid them as a W-2, you will pay dearly for that. So again, this could have been a great employee, but when that termination or that separation of employment breaks, you got to make sure that you're protected.
And we're not beating up on small business owners, because Stacey and I also had a very big business client who was making $40 million a year. You know who I'm talking about?
I do.
Who was classifying his electricians as contractors, but he was telling them to clock in and clock. They were employees. And when we took his account on, we were like, yo, dude, you can't do this. These are employees. And we got him involved in a government program called VCSP, that basically where you just tell the IRS in the state of whatever state you're in, look, we've been classifying people wrong. We'll pay a penalty up front, and then you can't come back and get us. And what's funny is he didn't want to listen. Stacey and I urged him to do it. And 3 months after we filed it, all these people started filing claims against him. And we ended up saving him over $1 million in penalties and fees. And so, it's everybody, and so like she said, it's best to not try to DIY this and hire the professionals, period.
Absolutely.
So this is a good segue into a topic that you and I have been discussing a lot more post-COVID. It's the importance of having an employee handbook.
I firmly believe, and I started really making this a message to my clients when I first started getting into payroll and HR, because I've seen how it has helped so many businesses. Mm-hmm. I mean, first, an employee handbook to me is essential in terms of creating a culture, right? Creating culture and vision and mission. Employees buy into you and they buy into the company when that vision is made transparent to them. So it's a good way, employee handbook is a good way to communicate that. It's also a good way to talk about your expectations of them, right? If you do terminate someone, but they will say, well, I didn't know that this type of behavior would lead to termination, right? That's the argument they're going to make when they apply for an unemployment claim. And that's typically an argument you're going to lose when you ultimately will see that claim being granted. So employee handbooks are essential for expectations. They're essential to protect you against future claims or lawsuits that employees can make. I can't speak enough about how important an employee handbook is, especially now during COVID. I did consult a lot of clients that, for one, they didn't have one. And that's a big pitfall too. They haven't visited that handbook since day one of them being in business. So the handbook was really pieces of paper, right?
Mhm.
That they, we're kind of going by, or 3, it's out of date. So any one of those are areas where a payroll professional can come in, look at what you're doing, talk to you about employee handbook, and help you design one for you. Don't just go by one that you saw that someone, a peer of yours, has, because that may be specific to their company, but your company is unique. It's
Stay
your
off
vision.
Google. Period.
It's your vision, right? It's your missions. This is your culture. So it's important to develop your own employee handbook. Make sure they get it. Make sure they sign off on acknowledgement that they received it, and keep that in their employee records.
Yes. And speaking of records, how long do you have to keep payroll and employee records? And why is it important to keep them?
So it's so important to keep payroll records for future audits. What if the IRS may come back and ask you for some quarterly returns from a prior quarter or prior year? What if you get audited by the Georgia Department of Labor? They're going to want to see your returns. Why is it so important, for you to have that in terms of prior paycheck stubs and prior pay history, in case employees ask for that information? So payroll records and making sure that you have them is so important for anything that comes up. Here's another example: people who needed PPP, right?
Yes,
They
get
had
into
to go
that.
back.
Wait, slow down. You got to scroll back. Get into the PPP. Go ahead.
Just to give you a mere tidbit of that included or having proper payroll records, right? Because in order to be able to apply for the loan, you had to show payroll going back into 2019. So I just mentioned that to say that's one unique reason. As far as, how far you go back, every state is different. I highly recommend in the state of Georgia that you keep your records from 6 to 8 years. But again, it can vary. And depending upon the state that you're in, to keep your payroll records. But I always recommend at least 6 to 8 years.
Stacey, what do you think about Tracy Bergman's comment? She says she likes that she makes them sign a copy of the handbook and keeps it on file.
Exactly. It is exactly the point I was making. Make sure that you have them sign off on the copy, because that's acknowledgement. That's acknowledgement that they received it, that they read it, and they reviewed it. Now, did they, read it or not? That's up to the employee. But you want that proof of acknowledgement, and I agree with Tracy. You want to keep it on file.
Yes, yes, yes. So I know we're not gonna spend the whole show talking about PPP, but I just it's just the importance of having, if you're going to be in business, have yourself together. A lot of the people who found it cumbersome to get this government aid, it was because they didn't have their stuff together. If you had your stuff together, all you would have to do is email your rep at Heartland, and they would have pushed out, or they would have contacted you. Let me change that up.
Yeah.
They would have contacted you and said your company is eligible for this government relief, and here are the documents, and we need you to sign off on them. And so, it's important to pay for professional services. You can deduct them. And, I can't stress that enough. And then having to go back and try to recreate what you didn't do so that you can then qualify for aid is not where it's at.
No, I had 2 different kind of calls during the PPP time. One of the calls was, can I apply for the loan? And what documentation would I need? But when we started digging further, they were paying people by cash.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have any payroll records. So, it becomes very challenging, even beyond PPP, for other loans that you may want to get.
Right.
For other funding that you may want to get. Without payroll records, really puts you at a hindrance on a lot of different ways if you're looking to expand the business. The other kind of call that I would get was, okay, well, I got this PPP money, and then everyone was rushing to get on a payroll system.
Mm-hmm.
Because they realized that in order to be able to get the loan forgiven, or that piece that that you use toward payroll, they need a proper payroll records, right? So, and they've been doing it themselves.
Or not.
Or not. So, again, payroll and having a proper payroll system set up is proactive measure, right? It's in terms of compliance. It's in terms of payroll tax management. It's in terms of making sure things are done accurately and transparently with your employees. And it's about making sure that by you doing it this way, you don't get caught trying to backtrack or recreate records or trying to hurry and find something that works for you because you haven't been doing it right from day one.
Yeah. So I have a question for you. If I'm a small business owner, it's just me, I don't have any employees, I file a Schedule C, should I be running payroll for myself?
If you file, well, that depends on your entity structure, right? So, if you're an S corporation, you're a C corporation, you can't pick and choose what parts of that entity structure you want to be in compliance with. If you've obtained that legal entity structure, then part of what it says is that you should pay yourself reasonable compensation, right? So, how we derive at that is through a conversation, obviously, but if you are a corporation, then you should be paying yourself on salary if you are taking funds from the business to handle personal expenditure.
Yeah, you have to pay yourself. If you have an S corporation, a C corporation, you have to pay yourself, period. A living wage. And what a living wage is, Stacy will help you figure that out. We're not about to get that formula because it's a very gray area.
Right.
And so you want a professional to figure that out for you. And from the tax side of it, if you have an S or a C corporation and you get audited and the owners are not paying themselves in wage-based pay, the IRS will remove your S designation. And then, you're in a big trouble because then all that income is now going to be classified as a sole proprietorship, which is a far higher tax rate plus penalties and interest. So, it's so interesting how many S corporation, because now everybody and their grandma's tax accountant child, payroll provider because of Googler. And so folk just click, and Georgia Secretary of State, next state, setting up stuff, don't know what they're doing. And they, I have an S corporation. And I'm like, okay, well, send me your wage-based, your payroll reports. I don't need to do that. I just take distributions.
The first time I met you, remember, Buffy, you had shared with me the story of a very well-known political person.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. That
was no names. I ain't trying to get so.
Yeah. And had made all this X amount of dollars in revenue and paid this tiny amount of I think that's a rolling some dice that you don't want to do. And it really, after, I have to give you, kudos, Buffy, because a lot of the times when you call me, that's one of the main types of clients that you really try to send over and you really look out for. Those small businesses that aren't paying themselves on payroll. And when they get a chance to see how they file their taxes with payroll
properly
versus without.
They're always like, what did you and Stacy do? Did y'all do something illegal? Did y'all look something up?
It's just getting people to do it.
Right.
Getting people to do to do what is best. So you're really good about that education piece of that. And a lot of what I've learned to help execute clients on and knowledge is you and I working together on that over the years.
We play good cop, bad cop. I'm the bad cop. Everybody know that. Simone B has a question. Can you run payroll under your social security number or do you need an EIN number? EIN is an employer identification number for those who don't know.
And yes, Simone, you do need an EIN number.
And it's really easy to get an EIN number, child. Now, I said don't DIY, but you could go to the irs.gov and get an EIN number. If not, call tax service, my sister's practice. Or, you know what, Stacey will help y'all with that.
It's real easy.
It's super easy. You'll need to, it's easy to do. So Stacey, new hire reporting. Can you touch on that? Because a lot of people aren't doing a good job with that.
Right. So new hire reporting basically means that for new employees that you bring on board, they're supposed to be reported to the Department of Labor. And why should they be reported to the Department of Labor, right? Because this is how a lot of people who owe money, like child support, are found. So when someone maybe hasn't done that, and then they pop up on the radar, the Department of Labor will send that employer a notice and say, hey, you need to garnish wages. New hire reporting is important for statistics. That's how things are tracked in terms of who's been hired in the state, unemployment rates, things of that nature. So it is mandatory to report your new hires to the Department of Labor. And also, too, for any of these people who are W-2 that are going to receive potentially unemployment benefits down the road. All of that information is important for trackable purposes and benefit of the employees. That's something that is automatically done in our payroll process. We automatically keep you in compliance with that. So that's just one less thing you don't have to worry about. You do have to file necessary paperwork to make sure that that is in compliance.
And I always tell people another reason why you want to hire professionals is, especially a payroll company, is when you receive the child support notice, you can blame payroll. They legally have to do it. I ain't got nothing to do it. I can't. It was mailed to them. They copied me on the email, and so they got to do it. And so you've got someone to blame. So you don't seem like the horrible employer that's like cutting somebody's check, even though y'all need to pay our damn child support. It's a way.
That's true, though. I mean, once the payroll company, that's part of our responsibility. I will say I had a client that they received the garnishment order. They were taking the money out of the employee's check, and then they were giving the check to the employee.
No.
I can't make that up.
Nowhere, but
the checks went nowhere, right?
And then
the checks never made it to the Department of Labor. So guess what ended up happening?
Yeah.
Department of Labor sent a nice little notice that says we need all of that money, and they charged them penalty and interest. And they didn't want it in increments anymore. They wanted the entire amount. It wasn't about, oh, well, you can pay us because they're back. We missed 6 payments. They wanted all of that fund. So please, electronic garnishments are meant for you as the employer to deduct and remit to the Department of Labor on that employee's behalf. They should have nothing to do with submitting their own garnishment order.
And you're liable because you were the one that was served, you being the employer. So let your employee mess you up if you want to. So Arnitha Webb, so to clarify, the S Corp is registered with the EIN, but we are running our payroll for ourselves using the same EIN. Break that down, Stacey, I think. Yeah.
So the S Corp, the same EIN number that you have, if I'm understanding you, Arnitha, the same S Corp number, EIN number that you have for the company is the same one that you would be processing payroll under for either yourself and or your employees.
And so what she means is for the company. But if you're an employee, Arnitha, maybe I'm understanding something different from the question. If you're an employee, your payroll is under your social security number, but under that, and I could be wrong, not wrong in what I'm saying, but wrong in what her question is, under the company. So the company has this EIN, which is basically the business's SSN, and then you run payroll for yourself under your company. Remember, you are not the company. Y'all are separate. You are an employee, though. You're an employee of your company. You work for your company, no different than the rest of the people on your staff. Let us know in the comments if we answer that question for you. And y'all, if you have other questions, please submit them to us. Simone said, make those tax deposits on time too. That's something, now you're right about that, but that's something that Stacy and payroll companies do for you.
Yeah, that really, to be very honest with you, that's where a payroll company, that's where our salt and worth is. When I break down and you talk about federal tax deposits, state tax deposits, unemployment tax deposits, the deadline for those, the quarterly returns, the deadline for those, federal unemployment return, state unemployment return, revenue unemployment return, the filing of your W-2s at the end of the year, your annual filing return. When you look at all of those dates and timelines and you look at what you got into business to do, does it really make sense? Does it really make sense to assume all of that liability when you can outsource that, concentrate on running the business, and then the fees associated with it are a tax business deduction? It's a win-win for you. It's a win-win for the business. So tax deposits, Simone, right on the money. Very important. Will save you a lot of time, save you a lot of headache. And at the end of the day, who wants to be or have the IRS or the Department of Labor in your business? If they're getting the money on time, you won't have to hear from them. You won't have to pick up the phone and call them, spend countless, sometimes hours trying to dispute if you made a payment or not. Payroll companies keep all of those electronic remissions. We have all those records to back that up. So again, that's what we do day in, day out, is to protect the business from and ensure tax compliance.
Lindsay, you have a great question. I think this question is more tax-based. You agree? Because I'll answer it if you think so, Stacy. I plan to start a bookkeeping and tax business next year. Do you think I should set up as a sole proprietor LLC or an S corp?
That's more your lane, Buff.
and you know what I tell people with this. So yes, set up an LLC as sole prop LLC to begin. And the reason is you don't know how much money you're gonna make yet, right? We got crawl before we ball, Lindsay. And so, I always tell small business owners that I don't think that you should elect to have your business treated as an S corporation until you're profiting $50,000 a year from the business, because there are a whole lot of hoops you got to jump through when you become an S corp that you don't when you are a sole prop LLC. And so you get the legal protections as a sole prop LLC. But if you make $20,000 the first tax season, to me, there's no reason for you to have established an S corporation just yet. So I think start as a sole prop LLC, and that's the beauty of LLCs. They allow you to change the tax entity structure over time without having to reset up the company. It's just some forms to file. Whereas if you were just to go out there and set up an S corporation, you'd have to close the company down, start from scratch again. So sole prop LLC would be my advice, Lindsay. Let me know in the comments if that answered your question. Arnitha said we did clarify that for her. Why is payroll integration important, Stacy? And what is payroll integration?
So payroll integration, the process of paying an employee is more than the end product, which is the check or the deposit that's being made. Integration involves what is your flow for capturing time, having employees clock in, clock out. And if you're having people clock in and clock out on some type of handwritten sheet or some type of honesty log, I caution you to think about that, because you could potentially be losing quite a bit of money. Because
girl, be real with that. You is not are. Ain't nobody honest when it comes to coins.
Yeah, my shift may be 8 to 5, but I really got there at 8:15. Okay,
coffee,
right? But I'm gonna write 8 o'clock, right? So you add up 15 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes, whatever the case may be, per day for 5 days on average of a work week, times 52 weeks in a year, and you'll quickly find out how much money your company could be losing in time labor management. But going back to that piece, so integration and having payroll integrated means that we not only look at how we want to set up your payroll structure, but we look at how you're managing your people coming in and coming out. Again, time clocks. Can that integrate with payroll? Or are you still taking time sheets, tabulating time, and then entering that? Don't have to do it that way anymore. People can clock in, clock out using a system that talks just clocks right in, syncs right into the payroll system, right? So that eliminates keying error on your end, that eliminates time that you're using to do it, that eliminates error. Okay, so I think someone put in that the time of writing things in is gone, and which is true, right?
And
So
she also said it was everything, meaning we got over.
yeah. So payroll and having a time and attendance system is extremely important. The other thing that I would say as far as integration with payroll is what accounting software are you using, right? So if you're using QuickBooks, you don't have to take payroll data and then put it into your QuickBooks. We can sync that information right from the payroll system into your software. Again, giving you back, if you'll notice some of the things that I'm saying, giving you back some time back into your day so that you can focus on running the business and less on having a out, a long drawn out payroll process. The other thing I would say is when we talked about bringing on new hires, somewhat gone are the days of doing people coming in and filling out a W-4 by paper, filling out a withholding form by paper, doing a direct deposit. All of that's electronic now. You can send a link.
COVID friendly.
And COVID friendly. People don't have to come into your office, right? You can send a link, set up with all those forms, send it to your employees or your new hires, have them fill it out, and it comes back to you electronically. And guess what? That sinks in directly to the payroll system, right? E-verification is built into this process. Background screening is built into this process.
We'll say background screening again. Hallelujah.
Background screening is
nobody does background screening, Stacy. Nobody. They don't want to pay the fees for background screening, but then when somebody robbed, they behind.
Background screening is one of the main ways that I've worked with a lot of businesses to change the turnover rate that they are incurring, right? Because they'll oftentimes say, we didn't really do a good job in vetting that employee. We didn't know maybe that they had drugs in their system, or we didn't know, that they had a bad driving record, or whatever the case may be. So if you're not background screening, and again, every industry is different, but it's something that you may want to look into. Okay. And it could help you with your workers' comp rate, just saying, as it relates to
it will.
Yeah. For drug testing. So anyway, and then the other thing I would say that can be integrated now into the payroll system is, your HR, how are you keeping your employee files and records? Do you really want to have a bunch of employee files and paper laying around, or they're in your cabinet that's not locked, which means it's not HIPAA compliant? So all of these things go toward making sure now that it becomes more integrated, less paper, it's electronic, it's protected. And so that's one of the things that I talk a lot to my clients about with Heartland, and some of the services that we provide that makes all of these things now in one central location in that payroll system. You can do HR, electronic onboarding, e-verification, bringing on new people, recruiting new people. It's a wonderful thing to have an integrated payroll system. I'll say that.
Yeah. And I mean, then you're a grown business and you can make your small business look like a really big business. And to me, it helps with hiring quality talent because they see you have yourself together, in addition to all.
And it makes you more efficient, right? It makes you more efficient in the business. Again, all of these things are going toward helping you grow the business and scale, but not letting the business grow too far above the processes that you have in place. People and processes, that's a very real thing. Those are things that you should certainly have in place. And if you've now grown beyond and you're trying to figure out, how do I get more time in my day? How do I spend more hours marketing the business? How do I efficiently find better new hires or source better talent? Or how do I keep people from coming in and out of my office, particularly now during COVID, and I want to be able to send them their docs ahead of time? Those are things that we can help with.
And when employees want to change the bank account or what amount they want to switch, they, and send this money to Pookie and them and put it in this savings account and put this there and that every other payroll. Ain't nobody got time to be entering all that. Let them do it.
Employee self-serve, let them change their address, let them change their direct deposit. All of that information can feed right into payroll. That's a good point.
Gracias. There's some of my own employee pain.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about HR, but really, Stacy, like explain what HR is, because the average small business owner doesn't really know what they know. That means human resources, but they don't really know what that means. And kind of explain, like a typical lawsuit is what.
Well, HR is it's a big space, and it's been even bigger and even more essential, right? During COVID, HR is about the rules and regulations needed to govern your employees within compliance, right? HR can encompass acts such as the Fair Labor Standards Act. Are you paying your people overtime? Okay.
Stop. Because baby, you bring all the tea. We're going to put a pin, go back. What's FLSA?
For the Fair Labor Standard Act.
Right?
Explain
that to everybody.
And so that means that for, generally speaking, employees who work more than 40 hours in a measured pay period, which is done on a weekly basis, are entitled to overtime. And overtime is typically their pay rate and half of that added together. So time and a half, right? So, different states that can be measured by day. I know California is a little different. But it's very important that employees know overtime, employers know, overtime, and how they need to be in compliance with that, and what that really actually means. And when it starts, there have been numerous companies, big companies, that you wouldn't think would be in violation of overtime, but they were. And it takes one employee to question, does my overtime start when I get in the truck to drive to a client or customer, or does my overtime begin when I'm actually at the customer's home? That's an example of a very interesting lawsuit done by a big company where they had to pay quite a bit of overtime because they measured it incorrectly. So it doesn't matter whether you have 500 employees, 5,000, or 5. Overtime is something. I had a client recently that got a nice letter from the Department of Labor, and they had to go back and pay back wages on everyone that they did not pay overtime on, and it was triggered by one question to the Department of Labor. So don't think it can't happen to you, because it can. So HR is about.
Wait, I got one more thing before you go on this.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Because this is a so. And I already know that I've asked you. So, can salary people receive overtime, Stacy?
Salary people are exempt from overtime. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very important, though, to make sure again that the determination for salary or exempt and non-exempt type of employees is done correctly.
Right.
Okay. I have some people who have classified people as salary because they don't want to pay overtime, but they have no business being a salary employee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So it's very, very important to make sure that the right classification is done for that. And I would also say that they did change, of course, what the salary minimum is. So it is supposed to be $655 a week. It was like four something, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's changed. So you just want to make sure also too that you're paying people at a minimum of what they should be as a salary for 2020 and beyond. That changed this year.
You have another question from Caroline Simmons. And she says, as a W-2 employee outside sales, should you be paying the employer match of taxes and FICA?
As a W-2 employee, and it seems like the person is in outside sales, just making sure I understand this question correctly. Should you be paying the employer match of taxes? If they are a W-2 employee matching Social Security and Medicare, period. Doesn't matter if they outside sales, clerical, climbing, it doesn't matter. W-2 is what makes that application of taxes in compliance with that.
But you know what that is. These companies try to say because you're in sales, a certain portion of that is contract.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you know what you're getting at, what they're trying to do. Yeah,
No.
yeah. Some of those people probably tried to do to her. Yeah.
W-2, period. That matching is there. Okay, so she said, I meant you being the employee, not the employer. You do still have Social Security and Medicare taken out of your taxes.
Perfect. All right, I won't interrupt you anymore. Go ahead. You started to get some questions, girl.
So HR, like I said, being in compliance with overtime, being in compliance with COBRA, right? You have 20 or more employees and making sure that they get proper notification for continuation of their benefits if they're terminated voluntary, involuntary. Making sure that people are aware of the Family Medical Leave Act. You're really more in compliance with that with 50 or more employees. But I will say HR right now has really been essential for a lot of businesses, because how are you handling, employees and if they get COVID? Okay. Are you still subjected to pay them for those 14 days of quarantine, or if they're out because they're actually sick with the virus? So, knowing rules and regulations to make sure you're in compliance will keep your business from having losses. You mentioned an average lawsuit. And I was doing some stats on that for recent numbers, but it's anywhere north of 150,000, with 150 pretty much being at a bench. So that can range. That could be any. Of course, violations are different, but you go into any small business or mid-size, any business, period. Sometimes, right? But I'm gonna specifically say for small business, and you walk in there and say, can you at any given moment give me a check from $100,000 out of your bottom line for being in violation from HR? And they would look at you and say, right now, I couldn't do that. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to understand what you put at risk, but not knowing what HR rules and regulations you need to be in compliance with, not having very basic things like an employee handbook. Because it is very real that these things happen. They happen every single day. So HR is about avoiding those pitfalls. It's about protecting your company from risk. And it's about partnering with a professional, HR or some other type of consultant that can assist you in making sure, with the number of employees that you have, what do you need to be in compliance with, and then making sure you execute that.
Yes, ma'am. So let's talk about payroll. How is retirement planning important to payroll?
Oh, I love. Okay, so
she go light up. Stacy's like me. She loves saving, honey. Save.
Well, I love retirement planning because if you think about it, it's one of the very best benefits that you can give to your employees. If you think about a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people throughout COVID who have had to refigure things about their finances, you'd be surprised how many people don't have beyond what's in checking. Mm-hmm. Much less talk about savings. And I know sometimes some employees feel it's not my responsibility, but it's a way to empower your people, right? It's a way to show you care. Okay, so I'm a big believer in retirement planning because, there's some plans that have some upfront costs, but there's some plans that have virtually no upfront costs. It gives your people a way to have money that comes out of their check that for some of them, they were going to pay in taxes anyway.
Right. Say that again. Right.
Okay? So they're able to defer a portion of that, even if it's something small, to get them started.
Yeah.
As a building block that they need to start preparing, not only for retirement, but, for some people, and it's not advisable, and I get that, but if you have it and you need it, I mean, it's there, you know. And of course, during COVID, they got rid of some of the penalties associated with withdrawing. And again, I'm not an advisor. You know, I want to put that out there. I'm not telling you, you know, to go run to it or to use it when you have to. But what I am saying is, it's important to have investing or at least savings building blocks. And a retirement plan is one of the easiest ways to do that. It comes right out of their checks. It's out of sight, out of mind. And before they look up, it just grows and grows and grows. It reduces their tax liability. It reduces the employer's tax liability. You don't have to pay any Social Security or a Medicare matching on those funds. So I think it is, for some small business, a missed opportunity to really not only have a tool that can help recruit, because if I know you offer benefits, all things being equal, I have a choice between this employer and that employer, I'm going to choose the one that offers benefits, including retirement. It's a good way to retain employees, especially if you put them on a vesting schedule or if you contribute to them over time, right? I may be more inclined to stay with you because I know you match. You know, part of what I put in there. I can walk maybe with all of my money that you put in after 10 years. And if I'm at 7th year or 8th year, may not make sense for me to leave your company at that time. And it's just a good thing to do. I think it's a good thing to do for your people. And it says a lot about your company.
Yeah. Well said, Stacey. Well said. So, Stacey, we are already at 3:51, honey. So we can talk about payroll and HR and small business all day, honey. But I want you to tell everybody where they can find you.
So, everybody, it has been my pleasure. This was so fun, Buffy. Thank you so much again for carving some time out on your Sunday afternoon. Again, I am with Heartland. As Buffy said, I've been in the industry for 14 years. I love doing what I do. I have a passion for helping people. It's worth a conversation. You know, if you have any questions, you can find me. Buffy, should I just give my email?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my email.
Dave will post it in the comments and then give your IG. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So my, well, first, my number is 404-808-4943. Again, 404-808-4943. And my email is Stacy, and I have a unique way of spelling it. It's a little different, but it's STACYE .farmer, FARMER, at E as in Edward HPS.com. Any one of those ways, I'll respond to you. For those folks that are interested, I got a lot of people that are coming to me for beginning of the year, wanting to get it right, wanting to set things up correctly. Now is a good time to have that conversation. We're doing, and I will offer for those special viewers of Buffy, your first month for free for payroll. So you have Buffy to thank for that.
First month free.
And also too, I know for those who continue to post and talk about what you've gathered here and may have learned from our conversation with payroll, $100 gift card. Buffy and I came up with a way to track that for the people who post the most. So I'm looking to give away some money.
So Stacey's Instagram is at Stacye Holland. So Dave will also add that. That's STCYE HOLLAND. Y'all go follow her on Instagram, and we're gonna use the hashtag Stacey Payroll. I'm gonna post later tonight about today, and you can repost the video and get people to get our views up, because it's the Sunday before the holiday, so people can go back and watch it when they get settled somewhere. And whoever shouts us out the most the next couple of days, Stacey's going to send you a little DM and find out where to send you your gift card. And then also, she said everybody that was here, and I can see who here, honey. is eligible for their first month of payroll free with Heartland, which is amazing. And again, I've known Stacey for a long time. She's actually a very big wig. She is not a sales executive. She runs a territory. And what I love about her is if there's ever any issues, I can get her on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, you know, some people, they rise up in their career and they're like, well, that's for other people to deal with. She is never like that, ever. She's always going to hunt down whoever. She makes it her top priority. And it's just top customer service, really making sure that people feel supported, and it's worth every penny. And we said you can write it off. And with, you know, us knowing that the new administration is about to come in with Biden Harris, and that there's likely more PPP going to come, more EIDL, more, because COVID ain't going nowhere. You want to get your ducks in a row with your payroll. And I'm just telling you, they doing audits right now with some of these children who's out here playing games. And you're going to want to have somebody like Stacy in your corner.
Absolutely.
So go on and, you know, reach out to her, 404-808-4943. We'll post everything on my Instagram, all my social media, so that y'all can reach out to her. I don't, and let me tell you something else about Stacy. My practice has done her taxes for a decade. So I don't refer people that I don't know their social security number, where they live. So they gonna do it right, baby.
But she always tell me, okay, Stacey, go ahead and get your information. And I'm like, okay, Buffy, I am working on it. Okay.
I don't even do taxes anymore. And I call him later, just send your stuff to Courtney and my sister.
It's real. It is real. Tell you.
We thank y'all for your questions. I want to say, you know, if you're in the state of Georgia, this runoff is very important. And, you know, there have been reports that people are saying that they're purging the voter rolls, specifically Black women. And so it is extremely important that if you're in the state of Georgia and you are registered to vote, that you go and check your voting status. And that site is MVP, like my voter page, mvp.sos.ga.gov, or you can Google my voter status in the state of Georgia. I've gotten so many people who've told me that they've checked their voter status and they are no longer registered to vote, and they voted in the presidential election in November. And, you know, this runoff is a national issue, and, you know, certain entities are going to do whatever they can to try to make the outcome be what they want to do. And we're not here for voter suppression. Stacey is here representing Heartland, so this is a Buffy Purcell, just being Buffy conversation. But go check grandma them, check everybody's, and keep checking until the runoff, because we ain't got time to play with them. David is gonna put that up. Did you put he did? So if you look for David's comment, he also listed Stacey's payroll hashtag. But this is a very important topic. This is very important. And I'll get off my soapbox about Georgia politics. But thank you so much, Stacey. This has been fun. I hope that, I'm sorry, the Mel B. What was your question? What we ignored you? Hold on, because we got time for one more. Let me see, Mel B. What you said? We ignored you. I don't want to ignore anybody. We got a couple minutes. David, do you see Mel B? Something about being sued. Mel, put your question up again so it's top for me. Mel said we ignored Mel B. Johnson. Wait, you get on David, he's the engineer.
Mel B, we certainly didn't want to do that, man.
We didn't want to ignore you, darling.
You got a question, please.
All I see is sued. All we see is sued. That was why that got ignored, because we didn't have the full complement, the full questions. YouTube won't let me. Okay, well, just send me a comment on the thing. You're welcome. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much. Enjoy your time the rest of the day on your weekend and next week if you're not having to work. And we appreciate you so much, Stacey. And y'all, I will post everything, and by Tuesday, we'll let you know Tuesday evening, we'll let you know who the winners are. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Stacey, thank you so much for a great day, as always. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.